At 2:11 a.m., she walked past 3 security cameras, completely safe, completely unaware. 30 seconds later, she was gone. No screams, no struggle, no one who realized what just happened. The car she entered wasn't hers. The driver wasn't her ride, and the mistake lasted less than 5 seconds. By sunrise, her phone was dead. By morning, the man driving that car was back at work. But what he didn't know, the cameras never stopped recording, and every second after 2:11 a.m. would lead straight back to him. Nobody noticed her at first, not when she stepped out of the corner store, not when she checked her phone, not even when she walked directly under the streetlight and into the camera frame. But hours later, that same footage would be replayed on every local news channel in Chicago, because at exactly 2:11 a.m., she appeared on CCTV, and less than 4 minutes later, she was gone. Her name was Kayla Turner, 23, community college student, part-time waitress, the kind of girl who always texted when she got home. That night was supposed to be normal. Friday night, October 12th, cool fall air, downtown streets still alive but thinning out. Kayla had just finished a late shift at the diner on West Belmont. Tips were decent, mood was good. She even joked with a coworker about finally taking a day off. "Tomorrow, I'm sleeping till noon. No alarms, no drama." Those were the last words anyone remembered her saying. At 2:58 a.m., she clocked out. By 2:06, she was seen on a nearby convenience store camera buying a bottle of water and a pack of gum. Receipt timestamp confirmed it. Everything about her movements looked routine, relaxed, unhurried, safe. Which is exactly why what happened next made detectives uneasy, because the street she walked onto after leaving that store, well-lit, residential, covered by 3 separate security cameras. This wasn't some dark alley. This wasn't a bad neighborhood. This was the kind of street where nothing ever happened. At 2:11 a.m., Kayla stepped into frame of the first camera, phone in hand, jacket zipped, walking toward what should have been a 10-minute ride home. She never made it, and what the camera captured in the next 3 minutes still doesn't make sense. The first camera showed Kayla clearly. She stepped off the sidewalk and paused near the curb like she was deciding whether to call a ride or just start walking. Her phone screen lit up her face for a moment. Then she slipped it into her jacket pocket and kept moving. Nothing strange, nothing rushed. Just a girl heading home after work. Soft click. Camera 2 picked her up 20 seconds later from across the street. Wider angle, slightly grainier, but still clear enough to see her posture. Relaxed, shoulders loose, hands tucked in pockets to fight the October chill. A sedan passed slowly behind her. Dark-colored 4-door. It didn't stop, didn't honk, just rolled through the intersection and disappeared off frame. At first, detectives ignored it. Cars passed there all night, nothing unusual about that. But then came camera 3. Mounted above a small apartment building entrance, it faced directly down the block. Clear view, high resolution, the kind of footage investigators pray for. At 2:11 a.m., Kayla entered the frame from the left, walking at the same steady pace. Then she slowed, not enough for anyone to notice casually, just a slight hesitation, like someone hearing their name called from far away. She turned her head, not fully, just a glance over her right shoulder. There was no one visible behind her. No pedestrian, no one stepping out of a doorway, no movement in the shadows. But Kayla reacted like someone had spoken to her. She stopped walking, stood there for 3 full seconds. Then she stepped off the sidewalk and moved toward the curb, directly out of the camera's clearest angle. What happened next was partially blocked by a parked SUV. Investigators would later call those next 40 seconds the most frustrating gap in the entire case, because when Kayla reappeared into view again, she wasn't alone anymore. When Kayla stepped back into full view of camera 3, a car was already there, parked at the curb, engine running, a black sedan, not pulled over suddenly, not braking hard, just sitting there, like it had been waiting. Quiet tension. The passenger door was open. Kayla stood beside it for half a second, maybe less. From the camera angle, her face wasn't fully visible anymore, only her profile, still, calm, not struggling, not waving for help. She leaned slightly forward, as if someone inside had said something quiet, something only she could hear. Then she did something investigators would replay for days. She looked around. Not a panicked scan, not fear, just a quick, casual glance up and down the empty street. The kind of look someone gives when they're about to get into the wrong place with the wrong person. Soft breath. She stepped closer to the open door. One hand briefly touched the roof of the sedan, steadying herself, or maybe hesitating. No audio, no words, just that one small pause. Then she got in. The passenger door shut gently. No slam, no sudden movement. Inside the vehicle, nothing looked chaotic. No visible struggle, no erratic motion through the tinted glass. Just silhouettes shifting once, then settling. 3 seconds later, the sedan pulled away from the curb. Smooth, controlled, no screeching tires, no rush. It drove east, out of frame. By 2:12 a.m., the street was empty again, silent, still. If someone had walked by 30 seconds later, they would have assumed nothing happened there at all. No dropped phone, no bag left behind, no sign that a 24-year-old woman had just stepped into a car and vanished without a trace. At 2:18 a.m., the first patrol car arrived. 2 officers stepped out beneath the flickering streetlight, scanning the quiet block like something should still be there. But the sidewalk was empty. No disturbance, no noise, just a cold stretch of pavement and a security camera blinking red above the liquor store entrance. Kayla's friend Mia stood near the curb, arms wrapped tightly around herself. "I told her not to take that ride," she said, voice shaking. It wasn't her car. Officers moved quickly. One checked the surrounding area, while the other spoke to Mia again. Slower this time. Careful, trying to build a timeline that made sense. Kayla ordered a rideshare at 2:07 a.m. Her app confirmed the driver was 3 minutes away. Gray Toyota Corolla, license plate ending in K9R. But the car on camera? Black sedan. Different shape, different headlights, different everything. Inside the liquor store, detectives requested the footage immediately. The overnight clerk handed it over without hesitation. He'd seen the whole thing from behind the counter, but assumed Kayla knew the driver. "She didn't look scared," he said quietly. Honestly, she looked like she expected him. By 2:31 a.m., officers confirmed something worse. Kayla's official rideshare driver had arrived at 2:11 a.m., waited exactly 90 seconds, then canceled the trip when no one came out, which meant when Kayla walked into that black sedan, she already knew it wasn't the car she ordered. So why did she get in anyway? That question hit detectives hard, because it suggested one terrifying possibility. This wasn't random. Whoever sat behind that wheel wasn't a stranger pulling up by chance. He was someone Kayla recognized, and that changed everything. By 3:05 a.m., detectives were no longer treating this as a simple missing persons case. They pulled traffic cameras from every intersection within a 5-block radius, street cams, parking garage feeds, ATM security lenses, anything that might have caught the black sedan after it left that curb. At 3:17 a.m., the first additional angle appeared. A traffic camera 2 blocks east captured the vehicle for just over 2 seconds as it passed beneath a red light. Not enough for a plate number, but enough to confirm details. Black 4-door sedan, tinted windows, right tail lights slightly dimmer than the left, and a small dent above the rear wheel on the passenger side. Detective Ramirez froze the frame, zoomed in, enhanced the contrast. "Hold that," he muttered, because inside the car, through the windshield, 2 silhouettes were visible. Driver, passenger. Kayla sat upright, facing forward, not slumped, not fighting. From what little could be seen, She looked calm, almost like she was having a normal conversation. That detail didn't sit right with anyone in the room. If she had realized she was in the wrong car, why no panic, no attempt to exit at the next light, no movement suggesting distress, unless she hadn't realized yet, or worse, she trusted the person behind the wheel. At 3:42 a.m., detectives expanded the search grid, tracking every possible route that sedan could have taken. But the deeper they dug, the stranger it got, because for the next 7 minutes, no camera picked the car up again. Not one. It was like the vehicle and everyone inside it had slipped clean out of the city without leaving a trace. By 4:10 a.m., the search radius had expanded beyond downtown. Detectives began mapping every possible path that black sedan could have taken after the last confirmed sighting. Highways, service roads, industrial backstreets, even dead-end warehouse zones along the river. If the driver wanted privacy, there were plenty of places to find it. Traffic analysts overlaid the city's live camera grid with archived feeds. One by one, they checked each route that would allow a car to disappear for 7 full minutes without crossing another camera. There weren't many. 3 possible corridors, all leading west. The first, a residential neighborhood filled with private homes and doorbell cameras. Risky, too many potential witnesses. The second, a construction detour with temporary lighting and overnight security crews. Also unlikely. That left the third route, an older industrial stretch running along the freight rail line. No active businesses overnight, minimal lighting, and long sections with 0 surveillance coverage. If someone wanted to vanish, that was the road to take. At 4:26 a.m., detectives pulled the nearest functioning camera to that corridor. Grainy footage, static lines cutting through the image. But after enhancing the brightness, there it was, the same black sedan, moving slower now, turning onto Harbor Service Road, heading toward the abandoned loading docks near the water. And this time, the passenger seat looked different. The silhouette that had been sitting upright before was no longer visible from the side window. Either Kayla had leaned forward out of view, or she was no longer sitting there at all. 4:41 a.m. The black sedan rolled to a slow stop at the far end of Harbor Service Road, a stretch of cracked asphalt facing the dark outline of the freight docks. No businesses open, no foot traffic, just empty loading bays and the sound of water hitting concrete. Investigators enhanced the frame again. Brightness up, contrast sharpened. The car idled for 12 full seconds. Then the driver's door opened. A man stepped out, tall, medium build, dark hoodie pulled low. He paused beside the vehicle, scanning the empty road like he was making sure no one was around. There were no cameras close enough to a clear face, but his movements were calm, controlled, like he'd done this before. He walked around to the passenger side, opened the door, and for a moment, his body blocked the entire view inside the car. Detectives leaned closer to their screens, waiting for even the smallest sign. Movement, struggle, anything, nothing. Just the faint silhouette of the man leaning into the passenger seat. 7 seconds passed, then 10. When he stepped back into view, he was no longer empty-handed. On them, his arms were wrapped around something limp, something that didn't move. He carried it toward the shadowed edge of the loading docks, disappearing briefly behind a row of rusted cargo containers, completely out of camera range. 32 seconds later, he returned, alone, walked back to the sedan, got in, and drove away like nothing had happened. By the time the sun began to rise over the river, Kayla Morgan was already gone from that car. By 6:12 a.m.,
Harbor Service Road was no longer empty. 2 patrol units blocked off the entrance, while crime scene tapes stretched across the cracked asphalt leading toward the loading docks. Flashing red and blue lights reflected off rusted containers and puddles left from the night before. Forensics moved carefully, every step measured, every inch photographed. Detective Alvarez stood near the exact spot where the sedan had stopped. He replayed the surveillance clip again on his tablet, matching camera angles with the physical layout in front of him. Driver door, passenger side, then the path toward the containers. Right there, he said, pointing toward a narrow gap between 2 stacked cargo units. That's where he went out of frame. A search team moved in. Flashlights cut through the dim, early light as they stepped between the containers, scanning the ground for disturbances. Footprints, drag marks, anything. At first, nothing, just gravel, oil stains, old tire tracks. Then one officer stopped. Near the base of the container wall, a faint scuff pattern disrupted the dust on the ground, like something heavy had been set down, then lifted again. Beside it, a small object caught the light. A single white sneaker, women's size 7, clean, untied. Detective Alvarez crouched slowly, careful not to disturb the ground around it. He didn't need confirmation. Kayla Morgan had been wearing white sneakers when she left work that night, which meant one thing. Whatever happened here, she had been alive when the car reached this spot, but she hadn't left Harbor Service Road on her own.
By 8:03 a.m., the sneaker had already been bagged and logged into evidence. Forensics expanded their search radius around the loading docks, scanning gravel, checking beneath pallets, even inspecting the shallow water line just beyond the concrete edge. Nothing else surfaced. No phone, no purse, no second shoe, just silence. And that single white sneaker sitting in an evidence bag on the hood of a patrol car. Back at headquarters, detectives focused on the only solid lead they had left, the car. Traffic cameras had captured enough angles to track the sedan's exit route after leaving Harbor Service Road. Frame by frame, analysts followed its path back toward the city grid. 3 turns, 2 traffic lights, 1 highway ramp, then finally, a clear plate capture, partial at first, blurry, but after enhancement and cross-referencing with vehicle databases, the system returned a match. Registered owner, Daniel Mercer, age 34, local address, no active warrants. He worked overnight security at a private storage facility 15 minutes from downtown, a job that required long, solitary shifts and very little supervision. According to time logs, Mercer had clocked in at 5:58 a.m., less than 90 minutes after the sedan left Harbor Service Road. Camera footage from the facility showed him arriving alone, calm, unhurried, carrying a travel mug like it was any other morning. No signs of panic, no visible injuries, nothing unusual at all. Detectives watched the clip twice, then a third time, because people who commit mistakes usually show it. But Daniel Mercer didn't look like a man who'd just done something terrible. He looked like someone who believed he'd gotten away with it. 10:27 a.m. 2 unmarked vehicles pulled quietly into the parking lot of the private storage facility. No sirens, no sudden moves, just a controlled approach designed to keep everything calm. Inside the security office, Daniel Mercer sat behind a desk lined with surveillance monitors, coffee steaming beside him, night shift logbook open. Ordinary, routine, safe, until the front door opened. He looked up, expecting a delivery driver, maybe a supervisor. Instead, 2 detectives stepped inside, badges visible, expressions neutral. Daniel Mercer? Yeah, we need to ask you a few questions about your vehicle. For the first time that morning, his posture shifted just slightly. Outside, forensics were already walking toward the black sedan parked near the employee entrance, gloves on, cameras ready. They didn't search the whole car at first, just the passenger side, because that was where the camera had last seen Kayla alive. On the floor mat, barely visible against the dark fabric, sat a faint smear, almost nothing,
easy to miss, but under blue forensic light, it glowed. Inside the trunk, investigators found more fibers, dirt consistent with Harbor Service Road, and something else, a second white sneaker. By 12:14 p.m., Daniel Mercer was in custody. He didn't confess right away, didn't need to, because every movement of that car, every stop, every second of footage had already told the story. Kayla Morgan got into the wrong car at 2:11 a.m., a mistake that lasted less than 5 seconds, and thanks to the cameras that never stopped recording, the truth followed every mile after. Sometimes the night hides everything, but sometimes it records just enough to make sure no one truly disappears. If you were watching those cameras that night, would you have noticed something was wrong?